most families are playing paper, rock, scissors in their home.
We all hear the Proverbs 31 woman. What about the Psalms 112, man?
This is a blueprint for biblical manhood.
Every moment you make a compromise towards God, it's you speaking to your family and saying, we're making a commitment somewhere else.
I like it when people just shoot straight. And Psalm 112 does just that. It shoots straight. There's no dancing around it.
One compromise after the other. You wonder all of a sudden why in 1 year of compromises, your kids don't want anything to do with God.
Those that want to build a legacy are playing chess. They're strategic. You're going to think and do things no one else is going to do because you're playing a different game.
Generosity that doesn't cost you anything isn't really generosity. There's a cost. What is going on, post-Sunday podcasters? I hope you guys are doing well. Excited to be with you guys here today on this beautiful, beautiful week of June. I think we're in the third week of June now. And man, it's exciting. We're in the Psalms and really excited to be with you guys here. I'm your host, Pastor Johnny Sierra. And looking forward to today's episode. We're in episode 25. If you've been with us all year long, we are in the Psalms and we are diving into Psalms 112. But I highly recommend that you check out Psalms 139 last week. It was phenomenal teaching and just really hit home in a lot of different ways. And so check that out. That's available on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes at Post Sunday Podcast. And give us a like, a thumbs up, subscribe, follow, whatever means necessary to just keep in touch with us. Be a part of what we're doing throughout this year. We're in season 4, like I said, in the Psalms, and we're diving through as many Psalms as we can through this year, and we're having a great time. And so we encourage you guys, invite someone to be a part of it, and we're going to rock and roll, man. But as you guys know, I am not here alone. I'm accompanied by our lead pastor, the legend himself, Pastor Tim Grandstaff. What's up, man?
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you, sir.
This is our Father's Day episode.
Let's go.
So we get to sit and bask in all of our glory. as the one day, I would say the one moment our families just treated us like dads, loved on us, spent some time with us. I just saw your pictures, your nice tomahawk steaks that you got. That was pretty nice.
We went to town. We went to town.
Pretty amazing. My wife made an incredible homemade lasagna meal.
Good for her.
Kids came over and everybody was around the table.
That's awesome.
And we had some family time together. It was perfect.
That's fantastic, bro. We can't get any better than that, bro, than a good dish.
That's it.
All right. You want to win a man's heart? Feed him well.
That's it. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I want my kids at my house and I want a good meal. That's it.
That's
the epitome of goodness.
That's contentment.
On a Sunday afternoon.
We are very easy to please, ladies. I don't understand why.
They think it's so much more.
They do.
It's not.
They do.
It's simple. It's easy. Yeah. Although I did tell my wife, no one comes over till dinner time.
Yeah,
because last year everybody fell asleep on the couch. They all came home after church and they all fell asleep. And I was like, well, while I'm up just watching whatever, they're all asleep on the couch. So let them all go home, get their naps, come over, then we'll eat. We'll hang out together.
Oh, look at you setting parameters.
That's how we did
laying down the law. I like it, man. I like it. I'm all about that.
I'm the king of the castle for one day. For one day. That's it.
Oh,
I get 1 day.
That's fantastic, dude. I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed your Father's Day. Any fathers out there, if you're live with us today, give us a holler, man. Happy Father's Day to all of you guys, whether you're here in Central Florida or you are outside of the country, wherever you may be. Happy Father's Day. We love you guys, man. Thank you for the support. We got some great men in the house today. And so if you're watching live with us too, let us know where you're watching from. hit us up. That's the perks of being live with you guys. We don't want you guys ghosting us. Let us know where you're at. Tell us where you're at. Even in Central Florida, if you're in a coffee shop or, at the house, I mean, man, let us know what's up, man. But we're thankful. It is, a great time, great moment to celebrate. But man, what an awesome word, man. Psalms 112. I know you're thinking through a lot of different parameters as you plan out the year. You got a lot of, Mother's Day, Father's Day, kickoff Sunday that we celebrate, anniversary Sunday, Christmases. You're kind of like, man, I'm only thinking like how your brain is wired, and you're like, what connections can I find here? And I gotta say, Psalms 112 was low key a under the radar one for me. I really honestly, up until this preparation of this podcast, I just didn't really see it as this kind of like layout and guideline for a godly man. And man, the more I studied it, right? I don't know if you took kind of this out of it like I did, but we all hear the Proverbs 31 woman, and you connect that, and that kind of becomes the profile of what you're aiming for, and some of the qualities that you're wanting to obtain. What about the Psalms 112, man?
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
That's good.
I was sharing that with my team on Wednesday night as we were rehearsing, and that kept running through my head. I'm like, man, this is if there was a qualifications, or if I'm looking to add this to my life and live by these standards, Psalms 112 is that, man. It's the checklist that I'm looking at and saying, am I good here? Am I good here? Am I right here? What are these things, right? It really is a great guideline for us as men of God to keep following and keeping us in right path, in right direction towards everything that God has designed us to do and be.
When you study it, you hear them say, this is a blueprint for biblical manhood. Nice. And you're like, okay, that can sound a little cliche because, there's so many things in scriptures and people can use that phrase, and there's lots of men's conferences and men's books. And you're like, but at the same time, that's how we are wired as men. Like, give me the blueprint. I remember having a conversation one time with a man, and he was like, look, I love how you teach. Just give me the points. Give me the points, and that's what I need. And as men, that's really what we're looking for. Hey, we have feelings, but at the same time, I like it when people just shoot straight. And Psalm 112 does just that. It shoots straight. There's no dancing around it. There's no softening the edges. It's just, this is what it is. Matter of fact. And now you look at it and you study it and you go, what does that look like for me? But as you said, to wrap your head around Psalm 112 being about legacy and about the generations to come, that's the bigger picture. We are trying on this podcast with everyone that is a part of it over the last 4 years to disciple you into becoming men and women of God. Mm. And some of those men and women of God will graduate to grandparents, a grandfather and a grandmother of God. But that's the goal. That's the goal in our church. We understand that people come along and they're infants in the faith, but we want to help them mature and grow. And as we grow, we want to do it the right way. And so if someone lays down a blueprint and says, look at this, this is how your life should look, this is what you should be chasing after. Now, read these, look at them, and go look in the mirror and ask yourself, what does my life look like according to what God's word tells me? That's what Psalm 112 does for us.
Yeah, so good, bro. I love that word, blueprint. That is exactly that's what I was looking for. The blueprint, the makeup of what it is to be a man of God, a man that's seeking after God's own heart. And David's writing this. David is writing this because he's living this, And so I love that, man. And so it's not an accident. I don't know if you've ever just sat around and there was like an individual that you just like, man, they got it all together. Like in every aspect of life. Like, that's what I'm shooting for. That's what Psalms 12 gives us. It's that pattern. Like, that has everything that I need and should follow in my life. And so be encouraged by that. If you need that blueprint, you say, shoot straight with me. I need it. Give me it. What does it look like? Psalms 112 it is. And I love that this life is not a private life. It's not something that you just get to do by yourself. It is a public life. It is a public display. It's not driven by a public. It's not driven by the public provides, but that's what ends up leaking, and that is what ends up spilling over to your life when others get a glimpse of that life, the blueprint that you're abiding by. And so it's not a private life.
And this psalm is not just for men.
Correct.
Let's be clear. Every woman should read this and strive for totally. what is there. But at the same time, every wife should be praying and using this to help their husbands and help if they have a son to grow up to be this type of man. And every young man who's not yet a father, who's one day wants to be one and wants to be a godly man, should be putting this psalm or highlighting this psalm in their Bible and dog-earing the page is something they keep going back to.
Yes.
As I said yesterday, every young girl dating, this is the type of person you want to date. This is the type of person you want to marry. And when it begins and it says, praise the Lord, blessed is the man who fears the Lord. I was thinking about this last night, just as we were, I knew the pod was coming, and I was just going, you know what I rarely have ever heard anybody say when they're teaching their kids how to date? I've rarely never heard them say, hey, do they fear God? Think if that was the leading question about who your son or daughter dated.
Jeez.
That was the leading question about who you choose. Not, are they a good person? Not, do they attend church?
Correct.
Not, are they work hard? Obviously, they're so cute. Hey, do they fear God?
Wow.
And you just held that line as a standard for your son or daughter, how that changes things. And we're going to talk as dads here today, as parents, and we're not perfect dads and perfect parents, but that is a standard that we hold in our house. I talk with my kids about the difference of when they were dating, the older two, a good guy and a good girl, and a church-going guy and a church-going girl versus someone who truly knows Jesus and loves Jesus. And my questions to them would be right off the bat, do they love Jesus more than you? Mm. Do you love the Jesus in them that you see? Is that one of the top qualities you see? Those are the questions that I ask them, because one day they're going to be your wife. One day they're going to be your husband. One day they're going to be the father of your kids. One day they're going to be the mother of your kids. You have to ask yourself, what are the most important qualities? And this psalm shoots straight right off the bat. Praise the Lord. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord.
That's good.
But there's a beautiful connection we were talking about earlier. True. Psalm 111.
Yeah.
We're not in it.
Yeah.
But we can go back to it, right? And you were bringing that to my attention.
Yeah. We talked pre-pod. And so we're not going to get to Psalms 111 this year. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to share a little bit of Psalms 111, because Psalms 111 is about God's character. And many scholars connect Psalms 111 and 112 together.
Yeah, they were written in unison.
Yes. They call it a acrostic structure, meaning like it's it's letter by letter through the Hebrew alphabet.
Yep.
And what was awesome about the connections with this piece is that Psalms 111 talks about God's character, right? What the character of God looks like, worn by its character. And Psalms 112 is what that character looks like, worn by us, lived out by us. So that is amazing. I have actually found myself this week praying the Psalms 111 prayer as an opening to my devotion time. It acts as this praise. For me, like, it helps me I don't know. You know how we've talked through Psalms that were sung going up the mountain towards the temple of God, the songs of ascent. And I feel like that is Psalms 111 has become that a little bit for me this week, where I've been able to find myself opening with that. And it gets me to that place. And then Psalms 112 now becomes the knife in my heart, in a sense where it's like, this is where I have to do the work. This is where I have to self-examine. This is where I have to look in the mirror of my life and say, oh man, this is, am I living by these standards? Am I being who God has desired me to be, that he's wanted me to be, that he's created me to be, as we talked about it last week in Psalms 139, fearfully and wonderfully made? Am I living in that image? Am I living in those characteristics? And so they tie in so nicely. And so I highly encourage anybody to read it as a one bunch, because you see how they begin, almost like they begin identically with a hallelujah focused chant and cry towards the Lord.
Yeah, if you look at Psalm 111 and 112 side by side, as you said, one scholar said Psalm 111 is about the king. Psalm 112 is about being a soldier for the king.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, I like that.
Correct.
Right? But they both start with praise the Lord.
Correct.
They both are written from that beginning. Psalm 112 says, praise the Lord. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who delights in his commandments.
Yeah.
Psalm 111 says, praise the Lord. I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. Great are the works of the Lord, studied by all who delight in his commandments.
That's good.
So you see this parallel coming down
Yeah.
that gets you prepared for Psalm 112. And that's why we would tell you here on the podcast, that's that extra piece. This week, don't just read Psalm 112. Go back and read Psalm 111 in unison with it, to prepare you for what Psalm 112 is really all about. And this Psalm 112 piece is really to get your mind wrapped around a bigger picture in your faith. We have said multiple times that our faith is multi-generational.
Yes.
And as true followers of Jesus, we are not living just in our own personal relationship with Jesus that is just for us and our house behind our closed doors. No, it is for me. It is for my home. It is for my children. It is for my grandchildren. It is for my great-grandchildren, whom I may or may not ever get to meet. And when you understand this, you understand the Bible better. Yes. Because the Bible, especially throughout the Old Testament, and I would say even the New, you just don't pay attention to it as much. But in the Old Testament, you will see it a lot more defined and a lot more clear how purposeful they were about the generations.
Yes.
I would say this when I was learning, that the highest value in the Jewish faith was how they passed down their faith generation to generation. They actually had a phrase, generations to generations. They had this concept that I have it here. It says they had a common image and a common saying that the fathers plant trees whose shade they would never sit under. Wow. Think about that statement right there. The fathers plant trees in whom shade they will never sit under, but their children would, and their grandchildren would, and their great-grandchildren would. And the image wasn't just that you would plant a tree that one day would cast shade for your family to sit under. It would be that when your family sits under the shade of that tree, they talk about their grandfather or great-grandfather that planted the tree there. We don't live in that anymore. Wow. We move around from place to place. We sell home to home. And heck, half the homes in Florida don't even have trees in the front yard. But that concept is a deeply spiritual concept, that I will plant a tree. I will plant faith in my home that for generations my kids will sit under.
That's phenomenal.
And when they sit under it, my greatest desire is that they tell stories about me. This is why in the Bible, they often say the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. It is not that they're worshiping Jacob and Isaac and Abraham. It is that they do not ever want you to forget where your faith came from. It is a constant generational understanding that you are in the line of this. You are part of this heritage. You're the spiritual lineage of a faith that is ongoing. And the beauty of it is we get to do this in our own families. I was telling someone yesterday, I look at my family tree. My wife and I have done Ancestry.com.
That's awesome.
I get into it and I can go back for generations. I don't know all the generation story, but I do know that, like, on my dad's side, my great-grandmother followed Jesus. Later in life, I think my great-grandfather came to know Christ. But my grandfather definitely did because of my great-grandmother. And if I was to look at my family tree and not knowing the generations behind that as I'm still searching, and I would put a cross beside her picture on Ancestry.com, this is when Christ came into my family heritage. Wow. And it was passed to my grandfather, and it was passed from my grandfather to my father, and it was passed from my father to me, and it's passed from me to my sons. There's two beautiful things. I get to see when Jesus showed up in my family heritage and changed the lineage that I'm a part of forever. And I also have to think about this. At what place on that family tree in generations to come does that cross get removed? That there could be a generation in my lineage that doesn't know of Christ. And that's the big thinking. That's the ripple effect. That's the big picture. How many generations can we make sure that Christ stays in our family, stays in our home? That is the planting the tree to cast the shadow that others sit under.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of that interpretation, now you see why it was so valuable when Jacob and Esau were receiving their blessing from their father. Yes. It's from generation to generation. That was the value system that was held. It wasn't how much cattle, how much of this, how much of that am I receiving. It was, I am getting the spiritual inheritance, the legacy, the blessing, right? And blessing was everything. It was everything, the entirety of one's life, not just their acquisitions and riches and one section of it. It was the entirety of my life I am pouring into you, and I'm praying over you on that. And we, I mean, as fathers, we have to constantly lay that over our children. You know, whether we know it or not, we're symbolically laying that over our children. And we got to make sure that we are laying the right foundation. We're praying the right prayers. Our hands are over our children for an abundance all across their life, not just in just one perspective in one section of life. That's not what we want. We want an abundance of it all. And so it's beautiful to see that, man. But yeah,
you said a good word there, and I think for anybody listening, this is where you have to do a personal search. I love that you said that was their value system, because we've had this conversation many times. I think the greatest challenge to anybody following Christ is to truly evaluate your value system. And by that, I mean this: the very top things you value that become non-negotiables. And they're not going to be the value and weight of what the world wants. And that doesn't mean that you live a dirt poor life. That doesn't mean that, you know, you just, you go and you have nothing. But this is also not about prosperity. This is about things like I will sit with people that have finally built community around them. Their kids, their family, they're involved in the church. They've got godly friendships like never before. And this is not to throw stones, but it will happen. A job will come across, and now they're weighing out, is the extra $25,000 worth moving 7 states away? Correct. From everything that I know, from all my friends, from all my family, for a bigger house or whatever it may be. And sometimes you have to because of your job. I understand that. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I'm talking about when you sit down and you go, what's more valuable? Is it more valuable to have the friendship circles? Is it more valuable for the godly relationships my kids have right now? Is it more valuable for the church where I'm growing and I'm maturing and God is doing things inside of me? As a family, when we got married, we valued my wife being at home with our kids. That doesn't mean that there's no value in our eyes for a working mom, not at all. But our value was that. But to do that meant we had to sacrifice. And we were joking the other day when I took my first job in ministry, I was getting paid $30,000 plus insurance. We bought our first house, had our first kid. All these things happened. And we could have made more money with her working. But we valued her being at home during that time. Guess what that meant? That meant when church got over and everybody was going out to eat, we had to say no sometimes, and we had to go home and we had to eat sandwiches at the house. Wasn't always fun. Sometimes you felt like, man, is this really what we want? But our value for what we wanted to do and how we wanted to raise our home was being set in those moments. Yes. And you just said that about the people of the Bible. Their value system and what they valued from life was different than the values the world feeds us. And I think that's huge.
It is huge, man. And so, what is that? Again, practical. We like to bring some practicality. And what does that look like in the house, right? We sat with a couple on Friday, had dinner, and, they were asking questions about what does it look like? What does it look like to build that godly family? What does it look like to put together these values in practical terms? And one of the things that I know that I mentioned to them, I said, hey, you have to allow your children to be a part of moments that can always allow them to see the vulnerability of you. Obviously, you there's things that you got to guard and keep because of age and all that. But I want my kids to see me go through challenges. I want them to see me fail, because I can go to them and it can create an opportunity of conversation and say, and I can say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I did this. I'm sorry that I spoke this way. I'm sorry that I didn't value something that you did, or I didn't see it. You were trying so hard. I'm sorry. I messed up. I want to have those conversations. I don't want to dismiss that. And so that's a value. That's a value that you're establishing in your family. Value systems are not, and we talked about this last week. I think it was last week. Value systems are, when they're incorporated on a consistent basis, they're going to be boring, right? They're not going to be fun, because the reality is that, your kids are just going to want to do other things. But if it's important to you and it's a non-negotiable for your family, you have to continue to put your feet to the ground. You have to continue to dig the trenches, to plant the seeds that in years to come, they're going to sit and have that shade. Their children are going to sit and have that shade. And it's all going to be because we've continued to fight through the resistances, the trends of this culture, and we've established a pattern of spirituality, a pattern that fears God. This is not about, what can we do the most? How much can we acquire? How much can we? This is not a earn your tickets journey that we're living on. We live by grace and grace alone. And I love that Psalms 111, how it finishes is how Psalms 112 begins, right? If you read Psalms 111, verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and all those who practice it have good understanding. His praise endures forever. You go to the next one, praise the Lord. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commandments, right? It's not about hustle your way through this journey of faith and acquire as much as you can. It's about teaching your kids to fear the Lord, fear God. And sometimes that there isn't much but being obedient.
Yeah, but that's the key. That's when it says in verse 2, your offspring will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. So now it's talking about your children and your grandchildren. They'll be blessed. because you first feared the Lord and you taught them.
Correct.
And then it says wealth and riches are in his house and his righteousness endures forever. It keeps going. So the wealth value is in your home by the way that you live. And as you said, fearing God has a blessing attached to it. And there are times in your life where the fear of God has to strike you. Yeah. And you want it to strike your kids. And for every time that I grew up and I heard the old cliche, like God is not a judge with a baseball bat trying to crack you over the head. He's a good, loving, gracious, merciful, forgiving God. That is 100% true. But he's also God. And he did some things in the Old Testament we can't wrap our heads around.
Yeah, totally.
And I told someone the other day, I said, there were moments in my life as a teenager and in college where I tiptoed to the line of certain things. And I could have jumped and I could have stepped over, but I didn't. You know why? In the back of my head was a fear of God. There was a fear. I told someone the other day, I said, I don't have a perfect marriage. My wife is amazing. She did great yesterday for Father's Day. She's done great. Anything that I talk about with our home and kids is probably more in part by her than me. She's just quiet and silent and no one gets to see it or hear it. She's just really good at what she does, but I saw that in her. I saw her love for God. I saw her love for children when she was volunteering in the youth group. That's when I met her as we were college students. And I knew that's the type of woman and mom I want to have leading my home. But I told him, I said, my marriage isn't perfect. I said, there have been moments in counseling over the last 25 years where we have come to the vocalization of like, we're so frustrated. If we weren't leading a church, we don't know. And that might sound horrible to people. And I remember our counselor would say, so then why are you here? Why are you still here fighting for this? And we would go, I guess just because that's obedience to God. And he would go, exactly. Exactly. That's the difference. The difference is that you're willing to be obedient to God even when you don't feel like it. I shared a quote yesterday from the Ole Miss baseball coach, Mike Bianco, and he was like, when your commitment is greater than your feelings, that's when results start to happen. And he was like just in his guy's face with them, like they're getting ready to go out. I think they're going to play in the NCAA tournament. And that's when real change happens, when your commitment is greater than your feelings. And in my marriage and with my kids, my commitment to God has to be greater than my feelings. Someone reminded me yesterday, my wife has said it to my kids. I've said it to my kids. I'll correct my kids and tell them, I love you. I care about your feelings, but I'm not parenting you according to your feelings. Correct. I'm parenting according to how I need to shape, guide, and lead you. And this chapter tells us that the people who fear God, who strive for righteousness, yes, their household is wealthy. The generations are blessed. And what people don't know is this. One of the greatest things, according to the people of the Bible, above all else, was a good name. But here's what they wanted to be called. Not just the name you knew of them as Abraham, Moses, Noah. Think of the people in the Bible, Noah, Joseph, the father of Jesus. It will say Joseph was a righteous man. And they would go, that's the pinnacle. If my good name could be written in conjunction with being righteous, not perfect, righteous. I seek God. I fear God. I live for God. I raise my home according to God's instructions. I want generations to have Jesus inside of them. Righteous. That was the pinnacle. You think today people are like, man, I want a blue check beside my name on social media to show that I've arrived. Hey, I want to say that I'm the CEO or the executive this to show that I've arrived. I want to be named the captain of the team. I want to be, prom queen. I want to say I'm at the top. No, according to the Bible, to be called righteous was the highest level of achievement in anyone's life. And it's telling you right here, the righteous, their generations are blessed.
Oh, man, that's so good. I wanted to go back to the fear piece because some people may have the question of what is it to fear the Lord? Fear of the Lord is a culmination of respect for the Lord. It is a culmination of obedience to the Lord. And it is also an ongoing, constant pursuit of the Lord. So when you say, I fear the Lord, you're inhabiting those qualities in your life. I have a respect for God. I am obeying his word in my life, and I am on a constant pursuit in relationship with him. That is what it is to fear the Lord. And just have that ingrained, because that is the pursuit that we're on, is a pursuit of fearing God, loving God, obeying God, and continuing to delight and pursue him and his glory and his kingdom. And I love that, man. The wealth piece in verse 3, wealth and riches. Wealth in this particular time frame, it doesn't necessarily equate with the physical dollar, right? That we know. Wealth and riches were an accumulation of animals and crops and harvest and right. So wealth and riches, man, it's like I have food on the table. I have provision for my family. That is wealth and riches, right? I think about what you were saying, some of the lowest moments for me and Jennifer when we, in our work life, we saw so much provision from God when we were in positions of so much need. When our finances didn't equate to what was given to us from friendships, families, just all around, right? We would sit and look at each other and say, how do we have what we have, yet you're not even working? Like I remember 2020, we were, she was furloughed for quite a while. I transitioned here. I was the only one making the ends meet. But yet we were so blessed. We did not lack in anything. What did we do? We feared God. We continued to respect his name and glory. We continued to live in obedience before the Lord and what he was leading us in that season. And we continued to pursue him with everything that we have. And within that, we saw the wealth and the riches that Psalms 112 is speaking of. And it didn't come in the dollar bill. It came in many other formats. Your health, food on the table, the bills are paid. It comes in different ways for us.
I said yesterday, you really want to hone in on this. You have to shift from becoming a house that wants to make memories to a house that wants to make an impact.
That's awesome.
And we live in a society and culture that's all about making memories.
So good.
Because of social media. I've got to get somewhere and I've got to post a picture. I was listening to a psychologist the other day, and they had done study and research. And it kind of just took me back for a moment, because now they're calling it social dust. That we take so many pictures everywhere we go that it's becoming, digital dust. You can't keep up with it. Think of all the pictures in your phone. Half of them you'll never go back and look at again.
Crazy.
Right? You just can't. You got so many, and all you do is you keep buying more and more gigabytes and terabytes on Google Photos or Apple Photos, because it can't store and hold all that you have, and you never have the time to go back and see all of them. We live in a culture of digital dust. But he said this, and it just made me stop for a second. He said, did you know that in our study and research, that when you take a picture of the things you're doing throughout the day, you are 16 to 20% less likely to enjoy it. Now think about that. So he got pushed back. The lady's like, well, then what? We don't take pictures of where we go? And he said, no, what I would recommend is each day somebody gets to snap a few of the photos. But we're so concerned about taking the photos, we miss the moments. Therefore, we're not able to actually fully enjoy them because we're always trying to capture them so that later we can let someone else know about them. That's the problem. Wow. And as you said, our wealth is being guided in all these other directions. Our wealth is in how many people like the picture of the memory we tried to create instead of the impact we were trying to have as a family. Wow. Because impact would be like, hey, today, no phones. Yeah. Half the kids and family pull their hair out. We're just going to spend time together because I want us to have impact today with each other. That's right. Versus create moments or send pictures or send texts to other people that are not here enjoying this with us. So the moment you move from memory to impact, that's good, is huge. But as you said, we live in a society that our wealth is not also about the dollar. Our wealth is also in our accomplishments. And we, for 4 years, will beat this drum and we will continue to do it. There are a lot of people that their wealth is in trophies and certificates on ball fields and in sporting tournaments, week in and week out, that don't allow you to have the impact and don't allow you to teach your kids the fear of the Lord and don't allow you to have them inside of a biblical community that they need to be in because you're always out chasing something else. I was reading this past week, the average family during a travel ball season will spend anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 for travel ball. But here's the crazy part. Statistically proven, 75% of kids who play baseball stop playing after the age of 14.
They're burnt out.
They're burned out. They're done. Yep. We're chasing the accolades. We're chasing the trophies. We have them out of church. We're telling them the value system is the award, the trophy, the certificate, and possibly a college scholarship. Instead of our family having an impact, serving together in the church, going on missions trips, sitting under teaching, being in a youth group, being around other godly friends in godly circles, we are teaching our kids a totally different value system because our wealth is being placed in how many trophies are on the mantle that no one gets to see, that 5 years from now, no one's going to care about. That 8 years from now, your kid's not going to go to college and play that sport, but you invested money, you invested time, you tried to make a memory, and you lost the spiritual impact. That's the thing that we're chasing right now, that we're trying to get people to see. And here's what I would say to anybody that pushes back. We do this podcast. We are dads. We're dads first. We're pastors. We say this because we care about families and their kids knowing Jesus and growing up in the fear of the Lord. Who do you want to listen to more? People who care spiritually about your home and the generations to come? Or the travel ball coach that's telling you it's a lot more important that you're in this tournament this weekend because if we win it, you're going to get to excel to the next level and keep going. Is that person caring about the spiritual well-being of your child and the generations to come? Or are they only cared about if their travel ball team wins a tournament so they can post that online and bask in that wealth for a few months?
Pick it up and preach, bro. This is close to your heart.
That's why I just went on a rant. This is deep in my heart.
This is what you dealt with for years.
I dealt with it as a youth pastor.
Yeah. And even
as a youth pastor trying to reach students. Yeah. The amount of kids that wanted to be connected to the church and wanted godly Christian friends, but were never there because mom and dad wanted them in tournaments. Mom and dad wanted them in travel ball. That's the crazy part. The crazy part to me is this. We have parents who will say, I will not make my kids go to church, but you will make them go to practice every single week. And you will make them attend that tournament every single week. So don't preach that any longer when that's the lifestyle you're choosing to live. I dealt with it as students. I deal with it as a pastor in families with their kids. And I dealt with it with my own kids and my own son, who ended up playing college ball. But I have spoken, and I will do a lecture on this if I have to somebody. we put some hard parameters in place that people didn't understand why, that the coach didn't like. And my son was the only person on his travel ball team to actually play college basketball. It can be done. But my wealth is in my home with my kids. It's not on a court. It's not on a field. It's not in a gymnasium. It's in my kids learning to fear God. That's where the wealth is.
Man. Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned this. It ties so well. Where I've been dealing with this, a sprinkle of this, in comparison to you, recently with my son, and I'll be honest with you, it has been. I've had to look in the mirror at myself, like, and really ask some really tough questions, and so I'm kind of in that journey right now. I'm in that balancing beam, finding. I want him to explore. I want him to explore. Same with my daughters. I want them to explore. But at the same time, we put stakes on the floor, boundary markers. We're not crossing this line when it comes to that. And I have to keep that word myself, because it is we could say this right now, right? And the person listening has a coach that is telling him that his son is a stud, and and people are watching him, and he's got to be in this tournament, and because he can make it to the next level of that team, and you are on the fence, but it's going to require you now to pretty much surrender the entirety of the summer,
your finances,
your
schedule,
and you're in that limbo right now. You're like, you in your head, you're like, oh, but this would be so great for him or her, but I think we could skip a few, right? Like it's funny how church doesn't become, and being a part of the body and community of Christ doesn't become an importance once it's connected or compared to something that looks a lot more shinier, right, at this moment, and you're battling with that, and it's an influx, and you gotta go to God. You gotta look in the mirror and say, this is gonna communicate something right now to my family, and if I don't make the right decision, this can communicate the exile. This can exile us away from the things of God that he has for us.
And memories versus impact.
The trade-off.
Right? Like we're not the final voice, but we're spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
And we have people that will negate us as spiritual leaders to speak to them over their 9U travel ball baseball coach.
So facts, bro.
But he told us that if we just, keep going, and he made all-stars. Okay, well then if you are what you listen to. And if that's the voice you want to listen to constantly, some coach on some team, every time you get on their program, they're going to lead you to the promised land, then that's what you become.
It's so facts, bro.
Or you can take godly wisdom, God's word, and you can evaluate the generational blessing that you are seeking in your home and in your life. And the generational blessing is not, does your kid play this sport in college?
Correct.
And there are all different dynamics around that. And I'll get off this high horse because there's a few other beautiful things in this.
Let me say this, though.
I want to say this real quick, and then you can. I was talking with someone the other day, and I told him, I said this. I said, here's the problem when it comes down to it. My son, I'll lay this out for anybody listening that wants to push back. He had about 7 offers to play college basketball. It finally came down to deciding that. And there's a lot involved in all that. So don't hear he had 7 offers that everybody's going to get 7 offers, because here's the reality. Some of them had no scholarship money attached to them at all. That's reality. You don't always get scholarship dollars just because you've been offered to play at a school. My son decided, Dad, I want to go to a Christian school, which was awesome on his own. Guess what that did? That took 4 offers off the table immediately. Then 2 of the offers were in the northern part of this country. And I said, son, do you want to play basketball in the coldest part of New York? No. I don't want to go live up there and move up there. So there's all these filters and layers that happen even for that final moment to take place. But we're caught in a dream, and we're caught in the voice of a coach. And our value system and our wealth is in what we get to come home, what trophy we get to hold up, what we get to post as to what tournament we are in, instead of what God is doing in our home and the impact he's making in our family.
So good, man. So good. Every compromise towards God is a commitment away from him. Every moment you make a compromise towards God, it's you speaking to your family and saying, we're making a commitment somewhere else. We value someone else. We value, we hold up tight the laws and the regulations of this sport and these things. But and God's standards begin to weaken. The foundation gets weak. And then you wonder, there's one compromise after the other. You wonder all of a sudden why in 1 year of compromises, your kids don't want anything to do with God. Your kids don't find any community anymore in God's house. Like, there's every excuse in the book. Well, I mean, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, man, what have we done? What decisions have we consistently made that has either led us towards God, that has directed us towards him, or directed us away from him? Because really that's what it comes down to. Decisions as a mom and a dad, establishing your homes, you're either making decisions towards God or you're making decisions away from God. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
We had our kids serve with us always in church.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm a pastor, because I knew it would instill in them the value that people matter. I set up a classroom in a school in the early days of this church because there's going to be kids in here today that have never heard about Jesus. I helped set up a nursery because there's moms that are going to trust us to take their babies for an hour while they go get in the service and they get spiritually fed. It's teaching them a bigger value system in their life. Guess what? They're kids. You know what I'd have to do every Sunday in the church? Go find my kids in the school. You know why? Because they'd go running through the school. They try to play hide and go seek. They try to do everything else but serve. And I'd have to grab them and I'd have to pull them in and go, hey, you're here to do this. It was a discipline and a value system that we are instilling in them now because it was going to make an impact later. Now when my daughter, who just went to the Bahamas, my oldest, comes back and I have grown adults going, man, she leads well. I don't look at that and go, look at my kids versus everyone else's. No, you know what I think about? It started way back when she was 8, 9, and 10 in an elementary school where she was learning to set up a nursery. And sometimes she would go in there as a 11 and 12-year-old and help in the nursery. And that has carried on when she goes to Brazil and the Bahamas 10, 11 years later in her life. But it was started then. I'm planting seeds and that tree's going to grow according to how I lead my home. And in the verse 4, it says, light dawns in the darkness for the upright. That to me is a very powerful verse to hone in on. That is not talking about, I hope light comes at the end of my dark tunnel. That is talking about the person you have become. That light dawns in the darkness.
In the middle of hardship.
In the middle of hardship. In the middle of who I used to be. Yes. There's now something new that is transformed in me.
That's right.
And now this light is dawning. So someone today live said, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't have that life. I had a life of sin. Guess what? You get to be the first Jesus link in a legacy far beyond yourself. That's the beauty of it. Surround yourself with godly people. Sit at the feet of godly people who match a Proverbs 31 woman, who match a Psalm 112 man. See those attributes. Take them. I texted yesterday I still say my pastor, Brian Bloy, Westridge Church. They sent us here. They're our parent church that started us. And I just said, Happy Father's Day to one of the best dads I've ever observed in my life.
That's awesome.
That's not a kiss-up statement. That's the truth. I will tell people to this day, far greater than him being a pastor was watching him be a dad. I would ask him for lunches and truck rides when I worked for him. And I would say, listen, I don't want to talk about student ministry today. I don't want to talk about church. I want to talk about how you're raising Taylor and Zach. Because I want to take some of those things you're doing in your home and I want to apply them in my home. I knew I have to learn from other people and I have to drink from spiritual wells of people that are beyond me so that I can put that into my life. And that is gone. We now live in a generation where 20-year-olds are trying to tell 50-year-olds how parenting should be done because they've figured it out in today's time. Instead of sitting at the feet of a mom who's had 6 kids and can tell you exactly what you're probably going to face. Correct. And we have to do that spiritually. We have to sit at the feet of wise people who have wisdom, who fear the Lord, and go, let me hear what you've learned, what you discovered. When I speak about sports, it's because it's what I discovered. When I said yesterday in our service, part of the reason I'm a youth pastor is because I got tired of dealing with the kids' junk because it was the parents' problems. I would sit with those kids and I would hear about mom and dad. And I would hear about all their failures. And wisdom is learning from the failures of other people.
That's right.
And I would go, I'm not going to be that type of dad. Yeah. My home's not going to run that way. I'm not going to push my kid this way. I remember 2 years into being a youth pastor, and I still remember this. I sat with a girl senior year in high school. She tried to commit suicide. She was a softball player, a catcher. And when we talked with her, this is what she told me, and I'll never forget it. This is why this fire burns in me. She said, I've hated softball since I was 15 years old. She said, I've played it my whole life, and I didn't want to play it anymore. But I only played it because mom and dad wanted me to go to their college and play at their school. And the pressure is too much, and I just don't want to do it anymore. And that's why she was thinking about committing suicide. That's a real story. I can see her in my head right now, that conversation I had with her. Wow. That mom and dad were pushing her to play for their alma mater. That would be their greatest desire that their kid could become. Instead of a kid who's being impacted by Jesus, it would be, hey, could I just say you played softball for the school I went to? Wow. That's terrible. Wow. And I don't want to be that type of home and that type of family.
Jeez, man. That's a great observation on verse 4. Verse 5, it goes, man, it is well with the man who deals generously and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice. For the righteous will never be moved. He will be remembered forever. You don't get to verse 5 and 6 without the earlier verses. I don't see the scenario that you are a person that is open hands and open heart to everyone around you, but you're not an open hand and open heart to God. Like, that just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect. You're fooling yourself. It's in the wrong order. If you think you're doing it, it's in the wrong order. It needs to follow a pattern, and it starts with open hands and open heart before God. And that out of that, it leads me into open hands and open heart towards others. And because I've allowed God's presence and his identity to just shower me, man. Paul writes this same verbiage. He picks this exact psalm up in 2 Corinthians 9, where he says, the one who sows generously will also reap generously. Like, this is it's not a formula. It's the structure that God has designed it to be. And so open hands creates open opportunities, open futures. But the point is, it's about the posture of our heart, right? Not what we're getting out of it. It's the posture of our heart. And that posture comes from a sincereness, because I've been in the presence of God. Yeah. When it's out of alignment, then it becomes greed and self-promotion. But when it is within the presence of God, that posture becomes a posture of humility, sincerity, integrity. I'm not lying to myself. I'm not fooling people. This is who I have asked God to become. And so I'm letting it spill out of me from the richness of my relationship with God.
Yeah, it would also say he gives generously to the poor.
Yes.
And I said yesterday, the pastors on the staff are not perfect, but you guys are all great fathers. And when I met PJ, he had just started Straight Street, which is an organization that was feeding the homeless regularly. And I would go down and I would watch his kids doing it with him. And we would take our kids with us. And along the way, it's what you're trying to get your kids to see and become. And so we have a big homeless population here in Florida, in Orlando. I think statistically, a third of the homeless population in the U.S. is in Florida. So at every corner, there's a homeless person. We know this.
So true.
Asking for money. And not always, but there have been times along the way, and not because you're just, you have to check that box. But there are moments that we give generously to the person asking, just so our kids could see generosity to people and let them know that person matters. Mm-hmm. Not just when we go downtown with Straight Street, but there. And there were times as a parent where it was, hey, I'm not going to give the money. I'm going to give it to you to give the money. I want you to tangibly reach out the window. I want them to speak to you. And I remember times where the person would speak, thank you, and they'd have a conversation with my kid in the back seat. But it's all moments where you're teaching them and you're making an impact in their life of the person you are to become. And that is what this psalm is doing, as you just said. It is about verse 6, being remembered forever, not in what you have, but in who you were. What you gave, yourself. The type of person you were, the qualities that you get to talk about in that person. I got nothing tangibly from my grandfather when he passed away. Nothing at all. He didn't have money. He was a traveling evangelist, which meant when he went and spoke in churches, they took up what's called a love offering and the offering plates. And that was his gift for being the guest. And that's what he went home and lived off of. But the stories that get told. When my aunt says, man, we would go in 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee. And there'd be a person standing there at the Slurpee machine. And I'd watch Dad start looking at him. And I knew Dad's about to share Jesus with the person at the Slurpee machine. And it's funny. And then she joked, I can't even get a Slurpee without Dad talking about Jesus to somebody. But you know what I heard? I heard about a man who talked about Jesus wherever he went.
Right. Wow.
And those are the things that are instilled in you, that you carry on as to the person he was, not what he gave me.
So true, bro. C.S. Lewis said this, generosity that doesn't cost you anything isn't really generosity. There's a cost. And we equate generosity to the giving of a financial giving. But generosity is that individual talking to another individual in the Slurpee machine line, and saying, hey, I want to be generous by offering you a gift that is above all gifts, right? That's generous. Does it cost you something? Maybe. What, time? Does it what, other people staring at you? I mean, we make a public display of ourselves on a TikTok live video, and
looking
we're
like
nervous,
an idiot.
And we're nervous to, talk about Christ, talk about the one individual that has reshaped and revamped the entirety of our life and the way that we perceive it, live it, do it. We live and breathe his life into us, and yet it is the hardest thing to do. Come on, man.
100%.
Let that convict you, man, because it convicts me, And so generosity isn't generosity unless it costs you something, man. Let it cost you. Let it cost you. Let your children see that it cost you, because that's the realness of the gospel. You're not sugarcoating this thing. I remember we this past Christmas, we went to Lake Eola. It's a big lake in downtown Orlando, and they decorate it really nice. They've done a great job these last few years. And I remember right when we got right in, there's this homeless man that is making these. He was making like these carrying kits, small little ones, out of palm tree leaves. And he would sit, and he's just making this. And I remember looking at my kids, and I said, guys, let's give him something. And you could tell, like, they're like nervous. They're asking thousands of questions. And I'm like, just give it to him. And he gives it to him. I'm not like, we sat probably another 10 minutes talking about him. This guy knew so much scripture. And we prayed over him together. But I remember as we then began to enjoy the rest of the of that trip in Lake Yola, my kids kept asking questions like, how does he know this stuff? Is that true, Dad, what he was saying? And all this stuff. And it sparked the conversation and curiosity. And it was a lesson I was able to teach them. And again, these are just moments that you can easily avoid. You can easily say, hey, I stay away, guys. Again, it's giving a message conveying a message to your children. As parents, we're always giving messages to our kids, right? In all circumstances. So yeah, we're in the limelight. It's so like, I mean, that's facts. You're in the limelight of your children. They're watching everything you're doing. So create those moments that create godly conversations, that create and open up their curiosity to understand and want more of Christ. It's going to cost you, yeah, but it's a good cost, and I'm willing to pay it.
Everyone preaches something in their home.
Yes.
Everyone preaches some sermon in their house.
Yes, man.
Whether they really want to agree with that or not. And I said yesterday, trading memories for impact means you shift your thinking in all areas, including your money, including your time.
That's good.
Including your vacations, to have the stories that we get to talk about around the table. Our conversations when we talk about memories are life impacting encounters.
Yes.
That's a different conversation we get to have around the table together as a family. Doesn't always go that way. They're not perfect. Sometimes they fight with each other, still at the same age that they are. And I'm like, is this ever going to stop? They're brothers and sisters. But when we finally hone in and we start to share, it's always about that. Yeah. We get to talk. I tell people, give up a vacation.
Yeah.
Truly give one up.
Yeah.
Your life will be better for it to go on a missions experience.
Can I say something real quick?
Yep.
Last year, for the first time, I took my kids to a Bahamas mission trip. Do you want to know what the number one conversation has been for this past year? It's been that Bahamas mission trip.
100%.
And I know you can attest. It is those moments.
Going to Brazil for 14 years, and I took my kids immediately when I could take them. Second trip in. This is the magnitude of the impact. My daughter has had a family come to her that she loved on. This is early on when she's like 13, 14 years old, maybe even younger, I don't know, 12. And they told her because of the previous trip and how she loved on their family, they had a child and they named their child after her.
That's crazy.
So she gets to go back and meet a child that a family has named their child after her because of the impact she's had on their family.
That's amazing.
There's a young man that we found in the fish market when my kids were 10, 11, and 12 that became their best friend in Brazil, who just sent me a video 2 days ago. He's in Italy. He sings phenomenally. He's in Italy singing in the streets, and he's got probably 70 people around him, and he's singing goodness of God, and he sends me the video on WhatsApp, and he goes, I never thought that God would allow me to use my talent to stand on the streets of Italy and sing goodness of God and have this many people just join and singing God with me. But we met that kid when he was 12 years old. He's now 25. The impact creates a memory that is long lasting beyond a photo op on a cruise ship.
That's right.
And I'm not negating cruises. I love cruises, but I'll tell you what, I will negate every family vacation possible if I can get my kids in other countries around the world on missions experiences. Wow. I'm just telling you, it's impact. The world is bigger than them. People matter. Things are happening on the other side of the globe that will never happen to them in America, and it will alter and change their perspective in life forever.
Wow, that's amazing. But it's the reality of it. We got to experience that last year, and that is one of the top conversations that we always have at the dinner table. How was Camp Bahamas? Oh, I miss it. And now that it passed this year, what do you think we're talking about? You know, the one, you know, last year's Bahama trip and the impact that it was. And now they're curious. What does the Brazil trip look like, Dad? Because if it's like the Bahamas, oh, we're all in. We like it, right?
And you're like, well, it's not quite like that. But here's the deal. Here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of it, right? This is true. I would not just question in like the wrong way. If you sat with your kids at dinner and said, this year we can only do one thing. We can do a vacation and we can go down to the Keys and we can get an Airbnb and we can have fun on the beach. Or I could take you to the Bahamas or Brazil, and you gave them a choice. What would they choose?
Facts, dude.
What would they choose?
B.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just trying to show the impact.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you always have to do it. You've done it. Yeah. And look at what it's created. Yeah. So you don't have to keep returning, but just have that impact moment that allows you to go back to that pillar. That is what happened when Joshua led the nation of Israel across the Jordan River. Because God told him, erect these stones as a monument. And every time he says, your children come back and ask you, why are these stones here? You will tell them about what I have done. That's legacy. You may not get to keep stacking stones, but along the way, you better have some stones of impact that you have erected in your home, with your family, in your marriage, with your kids, that when they keep going back and your grandchildren come and they go, hey, that's an awesome picture. And you go, yeah, we were on a cruise ship. And then you show them holding some kids and you go, a picture hanging on your wall. What's that picture about? And you go, let me tell you about when we went to Brazil and we went into the favelas. Think of the richness of the story that's being passed down. That's legacy. This whole thing is about legacy. And the beauty of all of this is really, I don't say the beauty, but here's what I held off. I didn't use the verse, but I was just like, you know what? Here's the punch.
Give it to us.
Here's the blueprint for a godly man. This is all about legacy. This is all about how you have impact in your home with your kids for generations to come. Verse 10. The wicked man sees it and is angry and gnashes his teeth and melts away. The very idea that the people that don't want anything to do with this would look at the life you're trying to lead as a parent, the things you're doing with your kid that are different than everybody else, the way you're putting boundaries in your home according to sports and schedules and whatever it may be, the way you're serving in your church, the way you're committed to going to church, the way you're giving up a vacation to go on a missions trip. And the wicked would look at it and go, oh, I'm angry. What are they angry about? They're angry because they're seeing something different in your home they don't get. They're seeing a wealth and a joy and an impact in their home with their kids that they don't have. And that's a punch in the gut right there, a reality check for all of us. We think we ought to be chasing what they're chasing. And yet this scripture turns around and says, they're the ones that are going to look back at you and they're going to be angry and gnash their teeth because they haven't built what you've built. That's the difference in legacy building.
That's fantastic, man. And it ends there. LOL, man. Wow. I mean, gosh, right? It's like it has that feel like it's so poetic and beautiful. And then there's like that one verse that's like it's like he's got that Tourette's, man. Like it's David. I can't.
Psalm 139. Remember the last piece we didn't preach on Sunday? We're like, now let's talk about this. like slay the wicked. Now he writes like, hey, they're gonna get angry at you.
Yeah.
But when you ponder that today and you really like, that's a verse to me I will meditate on.
Yeah.
Because my flesh wants to chase what the wicked are chasing. Yeah. But this verse says they look at a man who's willing to fear God and build a legacy, and he'll be angry inside.
Yeah, that's
man.
good.
I chased the wrong thing.
That's good.
I accumulated the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I created a lot of memories with my kids, but I never made an impact. And he'll be the one that'll be angry at the life you've chosen to live and the blessing that you've created in your home.
Man, good stuff today. As we opened up, Psalms 112 is not private spirituality. This is a public display, and we are preaching to our children. We are preaching to our communities. What is the message that you're conveying? We want to make sure that as parents, fathers, mothers, we are displaying the gospel. We are constantly putting God's word, the fear of the Lord in front of us in all that we do in every season of life. And so I hope this was an encouragement for you. What a treat, man. What a blessing. Again, Proverbs 31, ladies, y'all can hold on to that one. Us men here, we're going to hold on to Psalms 112 as our blueprint for living the life that God has held us to. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I would just say as an encouragement to really think about, most families are playing paper, rock, scissors in their home. Those that want to build a legacy are playing chess. They're strategic. You're going to think and do things no one else is going to do because you're playing a different game. And the world is teaching you to play paper, rock, scissors with your kids. Hey, what do you want to do? You know?
Yes.
Like, we're good. I'm playing chess. Hey, you know what? I've got to move this, and I've got to do this here, and I've got to do this here because the game's different. And I'm willing to play a different game for the benefit of my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandchildren if it brings the blessing of God upon them for generations to come.
Let's go. Stop it already, man. You are dropping bombs today, bro. This is good stuff. We can't give them 2 hours, man. Nah, we'll get there eventually. We'll have a 2-hour episode pod because these conversations are just getting so good, man. But what a blessing. If you guys have been with us or you're with us live, thank you for tuning in and being with us. We're gonna be on demand in all platforms: YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes. Check us out in all of those platforms. We are there. Give us a rating. Give us a review. It will help us just continue to get in front of more faces that need to hear the gospel and that are looking for a deeper Bible study, man. That's what we're doing here. And so thank you again for your support. Thank you for what you have meant to us. Don't forget to, guys, on Instagram, if you follow us there, we have an Instagram channel. It's called Diamond Level. Come join us. We put some new, fresh, different content there, things that we think about throughout the week that attach itself to the podcast. We have it all in there. So check it out. And we'll love to have you. And so until next time, guys, can't wait. Episode 26 next week. Grace and peace.